Anyhow, I wanted to talk about the fact that Oculus and Hewlett Packard, it seems like there's a lot of delays for VR headsets now. I was all excited to get the Oculus Quest, and then they dropped the whole bomb with the Rift S. In fact, has anybody ever talked about the fact that S is like 2 flipped in reverse? I mean, not exactly, but it's kind of close. They're like, oh, we were going to do Oculus Rift 2. That didn't happen. Let's flip the 2 around, make it an S. Like, seriously, what does S stand for? Nothing. It's a 2 in reverse. Anyhow, so they didn't release the Quest when some people thought. And then they had that whole countdown. Like, how do you have a countdown without having a termination point? Like, if I say, oh, it's a countdown, the rocket ship is going to take off. Okay, when? When is it? Oh, we're just counting down from, like, it's ridiculous. I mean, I know they have a date now, the 21st or the 23rd. And anyhow, so when they came out with the Rift S, I was realizing that there's a problem. I mean, you have it in the same panel as the Oculus Go, which is a good panel, but come on, what? And they did say it's an upgrade. I know a bunch of fanboys are like, oh, it's not a Rift upgrade. Yeah, it is. Look at the interviews with the guys on Tested. The people from Oculus say it's an upgrade. So, I mean, I guess you can argue with Oculus and tell them it's not an upgrade, but they think it is. And with the Oculus Quest, I mean, the fact is it has higher resolution, but because it's an OLED panel, it's got lower clarity because of the subpixels. So, and I wanted to get the HP reverb because I feel like clarity is king. I mean, I was all about the Oculus Go. I really was until hey, somebody's watching. And I was all about the Oculus Go until I got my Samsung Odyssey Plus, and then everything was so clear. The VR was so clear, and I'm sorry for the people that don't have a good PC. It is expensive. I'm not rich. I don't have tons of money. I've got a 980 GTX 980. You know, I don't have the best video card either, but the experience is absolutely superior visually. It's absolutely superior. And I know people are like, oh, but you're tethered to your computer. Now that sounds like a legitimate argument. It does, until you can just attach your VR cable to the ceiling and it feels like you're wireless, right? Because you're tethered anyway. You have a boundary. You may not be physically tethered, but you have a boundary. You have an actual boundary with, you know, your fake walls that you put up, the Guardian system. You can't just walk anywhere. I mean, you have physical boundaries anyways. So, and you're not going to be doing a ton of moving anyways. So it's not that big a deal to me. Oh, it's wireless or it's not wireless. Little dog, cute dog. Anyways, and I was totally going to get the HP Reverb when it was supposed to be released, April 26th. And now it's like, oh, it's supposed to be May 6th. Nope, still not being released. Nope, not released. So at this point, I think I'm just going to scrounge some money together. I don't have a whole lot of money. Scrounge money together, upgrade my video card, and enjoy my Samsung Odyssey Plus for as long as I can. Squeeze out as much detail as I can from that, which is amazing. I love my Samsung Odyssey Plus. Although I have to say I have been getting bored with VR because of lack of social interaction. I really have been getting bored with it. It's one of the reasons why I haven't been doing hardly any videos about VR, because I'm just like, eh. And I put out some really cool stuff, useful stuff. And while there are people that are really interested in it, it's not a lot of people. There's not a whole lot of audience for virtual reality right now. And then I see other stuff where people have put out really nice VR videos, like 3D videos, and they have like 20,000 views in a year. Like, that's it. Like, there's not a huge VR audience right now. And I'm a big fan of 3D. Like, I was bummed out when they stopped making 3D TVs, and so I go on eBay and I buy like used 3D TVs. Like my computer monitor is a 55-inch 4K passive 3D TV. It's a Sony, and I love that thing, and it's great for 3D. And then I have a BenQ 2040, is it 2080, something like that, HT active 3D projector that shoots onto a 100-inch screen. So I like that. But anyhow, I'm not gonna answer that call. But anyhow, I don't know. I am disillusioned, I guess, with where VR has kind of stalled. There was an article too about VR stalling, like the development of it stalling, or just like I don't know. I have to find the article. I read it and I was like, I really agree with this article. I mean, I'm all into something when it's new and I like to push the boundaries, but once I find those boundaries, I start losing interest. And like all the new games and stuff, I stopped following stuff that's going on with the Oculus Go for a while. I mean, it's probably, I don't know what new games or apps have come out for it. I just lost interest. And again, I thought, well, okay, I want more people to be involved in it. And so I thought I would go ahead and give some people Oculus Go's. They hardly ever use them, hardly ever. So, and trying to get them to use them, sometimes I get into an argument with them. Come on, try it, put this on, it's really cool. I can't right now, or this or that. So I have a theory that putting it on is like being afraid to jump into a swimming pool, because oh, sorry, I saw some comments there. I'm just walking around the streets. Anyhow, I see that right behind me. What the heck was I saying? Talking about something. I've never done this before. I've never done a live stream where I'm just walking down the street. But oh yeah, like people, I think it's like, when you put a VR headset on, you're literally blindfolding yourself to your environment. So I think like on a subconscious level, you don't want to put it on because your subconscious, your survival instinct is like, I'm going to be vulnerable. And VR fanboys. Oh my gosh, let me tell you about VR fanboys. They will say, the ones that say things like, you can't compare the Oculus Go with the Oculus Rift, or you can't compare the Oculus Go with the Samsung Odyssey Plus. They're not the same thing, really. Have you ever gone to Best Buy and gone to their end cap when they have the Oculus Rift and the Oculus Go? They don't have an Oculus Rift and a refrigerator, right? They don't have an Oculus Go and a washing machine. They're an Oculus Rift and an Oculus Go for a reason. But we need fanboys. As much as fanboys annoy me, because they do not want to acknowledge the truth about things like VR, like Oculus Go and Oculus Rift, Samsung Odyssey Plus, they're VR head-mounted displays. They're like, no, it's not the same thing. But we need those guys, because those guys are the ones that are going to cough up the money to finance more development of virtual reality. And that's what we need in order for this stuff to take off. So we need those guys, we need their money, we need their lack of willingness to acknowledge the truth of the limitations of development so that they can finance further development. So we need them. And I mean, that's what they're good for. They're super annoying though. But yeah, I mean, that's it. It's so weird. Like you have a cell phone, right? You have your cell phone and it's like really high resolution display. Like right now I have a Pocophone F1. It's got a high resolution display. It's like almost 4K, whatever it is. And then we go to, virtual reality. And it's like the best we can do right now is like a 720p display. It's like, are you serious? And John Carmack mentioned that they thought that they were going to get better. They thought that they were going to be like all the phone companies were going to be fighting and continuing to develop the displays, and they'd be 4K displays, and they would just use those for VR. Like that makes perfect sense. I understand. I agree with that mentality. But and he says it didn't end up going that way. That's not what ended up happening. So anyhow, I've just been kind of disillusioned with where VR has gone, especially with the latest. Like when I heard about the Rift S, I was like, what? and then the lack of dates on when things were going to be released. Cross right here. The lack of dates on when things were going to be released, and then the switching of dates, because I had money. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and buy a reverb. I'm going to buy a reverb because it's so clear, it's so crisp. It's not. It's more clear than the Pimax 5K. Okay, it's more clear. But now it's delayed, and I mean, I've also had things come up. I'm going to go visit my son in Texas. I have to fly out to Texas to visit my son when he graduates from the Air Force basic military training, which is cool. But that's going to set me back quite a few bucks to go do that. And I'm an IT contractor, so when I take time off, I don't get paid time off. So it's going to have to pay for the trip. Plus, I'm going to be missing out on any work during that time, which is totally worth it to get to see my son. But, this is stuff that's tying up some finances. And so, yeah, I can't really afford that right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to invest in a better video card and really max out what I can do with my Samsung Odyssey Plus. But again, there's still limitations. Like, even if I have the best video card and it just looks as clear as possible, another issue I find is you're in VR, like you have a fun time in VR and I'm standing up, and like in an hour to 2 hours, I'm physically tired. Like, I want to stop because I'm just physically tired. Even with the mod I did with the Samsung Odyssey Plus, where it's comfortable and it doesn't hurt anymore. It's just, you get tired standing up for so long. It's not something you want to do. You want to sit down. And I know there's a lot of people that have had requests to have more seated experience, or Oculus has found out that there's more seated experiences that you can have, or that people prefer. People go home and they have a seated experience in VR. So that would be fun. So, I mean, I know that there's potential issues with all of this. I get it. I understand that. But those are the limitations right now. So anyhow, I think I'm done for my my ranting. But you know what? The consumer anticipation of the release of these headsets was peaked, and these companies didn't release them. And I had the money. I was all excited, and I was thinking I shouldn't spend the money, but I have it, and I'm going to spend it anyway. And then they didn't release them. They were delayed. And I know people are going to be like, oh, the Oculus Quest wasn't delayed. Well, it kind of was delayed in the sense that they're like, oh, it's a countdown. And it wasn't a countdown. You don't have a real countdown without, say, oh, the timer's going, there's a countdown. It's a countdown timer. Not if you don't know when it's going to be done. It's not. Oh, Oculus knew. No, they didn't. If they did, they would have told you. Anyways, so for me, I've lost a lot of excitement about the whole release of these devices, and I'm not going to worry about purchasing them, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to upgrade what I have. And try to max out what I have, because that's going to be less money. Plus, I don't have any games that I just want to play all the time. Like Moss looks amazing. That little foxtail thing looks amazing that you play with the reverb, or not reverb, revive. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is. There's something lacking in it. Like, I put on my Oculus Go for the first time in like 2 to 4 weeks yesterday, and I played some cool games in it, like Overflight. I love Overflight, but I only played it for like a half hour, and then I was done. I was like, I'm done. So anyhow, that's my rant. I hope to come back with some videos, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to do gimmicky videos. I don't want to just be like, here's a video just to do a video. Like, I want to do stuff people are interested in, and there's very limited. I know there's some VR guys online that they have like a lot of people, a lot of views and stuff. But there's not a lot of VR guys online that have lots of views. And I just think the overall audience isn't really there very much. I'm not saying that there's not an audience. There is an audience, but it's just not. I don't know. I mean, I was super excited about the whole thing. Anyways, I'm rambling right now, so I'm going to take off. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to go pick up my car, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks.